The 2016 Warriors, a record-setting season that ended with the biggest collapse in NBA history. Are the 73-9 Warriors the best team ever? Or did they have the biggest choke job ever? Sound off in the comments below. The Warriors dynasty came out of nowhere, and at this point, it wasn't built through major free agents joining or trades to bring in established superstars. It was a team built through the draft, and then surrounding their talent with good veteran free agents. Let's start with the core of this team. While Steph Curry was a super exciting player, nobody, and I mean nobody, could have foreseen what he has become. Klay Thompson was a good player in college, but he played at Washington State and didn't garner major hype or attention. And finally, the most unexpected yet, one of the most important pieces in Draymond Green was a second-round draft pick who was thought to be undersized with major limitations in his game. And to be fair, he does have limitations, but his skills and IQ heavily outweigh those. Draymond is the dirty work guy, and he makes the team click due to his defensive ability and chemistry with Steph and Klay. Dre is a true basketball genius, and it shows on the floor even when he is struggling to score. If you need evidence based on stats, just look at his stat line during the Warriors' prime, where he almost averaged a triple-double every year while barely scoring above 10 a night. Klay, pre-injury, was the perfect sidekick to Steph, a marksman just like Steph that didn't need the ball to dominate. And he was one of the best perimeter defenders as well, alleviating some of the defensive struggles for Steph, as Klay was able to guard the opposing team's top guy. At 41.6% three-point shooter for his career, who could never be left open, leaving more room for Steph to work as defenders had to be focused on Klay at all times. And of course there is Steph. Steph is good enough to make any team a championship contender by himself, but the way Klay and Dre fit with him is what turned this team into a dynasty, the greatest shooter ever. One of the greatest superstar teammates ever, a 9-time All-Star, 2-time MVP, 1-time being unanimous. You know who Steph is, and we don't need to discuss his stats too much. The point is, the three of these guys were drafted by Golden State, and while they were talented players, nobody could have seen their dynasty coming. So when they walked their way to a championship in 2014-2015, it caught most off guard. That all leads up to the infamous 2015-2016 season. 20 years prior, the 6-time champion Chicago Bulls, led by none other than the greatest ever, Michael Jordan, would win 72 games, setting the record for the most regular season wins in NBA history. The previous record was set in 1972 when the Los Angeles Lakers, led by Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West, won 69 games. Entering the 2015-2016 season, the Warriors were favorites alongside the Cavs, but nobody expected them to break the 72-win record. It was only when the Warriors started 10-0, then 15-0, then 20-0, when people started to think that we might be watching something special, something historic. They would finally lose to the Milwaukee Bucks after starting the season 24-0. By the All-Star break, Steph Curry was averaging 30 a night and on his way to joining the 50-40-90 club, while leading the team to a 48-4 record. And if you weren't tuned in by then, you certainly were after the All-Star break. Post-All-Star Game Warriors were must-watch TV. It was all about the record. Even for the team, possibly to their own detriment. The younger generation who didn't see the Bulls were excited about the possibility of seeing history. The old heads were hoping that the Jordan-led Bulls would remain the record holder after the season. Whatever side you found yourself on, you were tuned in. The Warriors would get to 69 wins before they tallied their 9th and final loss. If they wanted the record, which meant that they would have to win the remaining 4 games against the Spurs twice, who were a powerhouse as well this season, and the Grizzlies twice. They would win the first 3 of this final 4-game stretch, beating the Spurs twice and Grizzlies once, meaning it would all come down to the last game. At worst, they tie the record, but who wants to get just this far to tie it? The intrigue was high, the anticipation, the stress, everything was high. It would take 46 points from the soon-to-be 2-time MVP Steph Curry, but the Warriors would do it, beating the Grizzlies 125-104 to become the greatest regular season team in NBA history. This same season, the Warriors had multiple notable record-breaking accomplishments. They won a record 34 road games, shattered the longest winning streak to start a season at 24-0, had a 54 home game win streak, and had the best record of any team entering an All-Star break. So obviously, as the defending champs and now the best team in regular season history by multiple different marks, they were the biggest of favorites entering the playoffs, and they would show no signs of slowing down as they cruised past the Houston Rockets 4-1 in the first round. The second round was more of the same as they took down the Portland Trail Blazers in 5 as well. The Western Conference Finals was the first time all season long where it looked like the Warriors were in trouble and that their magical season might get cut short. Playing against the Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook-led OKC Thunder, the Warriors found themselves down 3-1. In a winner-go-home Game 5 in their home building, they came through winning 120-111, holding off a 40-point masterclass from KD. On the road in Game 6, the legend of Game 6 Klay was born. With the season on the line, the Warriors were heading into the fourth quarter down 8. This is when Klay Thompson took over, scoring 19 of his game-high 41 points and leading the Warriors to a 108-101 victory to survive yet again and force a Game 7 back at Oracle. Game 7 was close, but the Warriors pulled out the W, setting up a rematch of the previous year's finals versus LeBron James and the Cavaliers. The Warriors got off to a quick start and looked like they were going to complete the magical season and cement themselves as the best team in the history of the NBA. At this point, they are up 3-1 in the series with a chance to close it out at home. Unfortunately for them, Kyrie and LeBron put on one of the greatest performances ever by a duo, both scoring 41 points to steal Game 5 and head back home for Game 6. Another 41-point masterclass from LeBron in Game 6 set up a winner-take-all Game 7 at Oracle, and either way the sports world would be witnessing history. The Game 7 was a back-and-forth stressful game that came down to the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter. Like Games 5 and 6, the Cavs superstars came through, with LeBron creating one of the most impactful sports moments in history, with his iconic block off the backboard on Andre Iguodala, followed by Kyrie's signature three-pointer that gave the Cavs the lead and ultimately the game. Just a couple short weeks after coming back from down 3-1 against the Thunder, the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead on the biggest stage to choke what would have been the greatest season in the history of the sport. The Warriors would go on to win the next 2 titles with Kevin Durant and a 3rd championship years later in 2022. But it doesn't make up for the 3-1 choke in terms of the history it would have made. After watching the video and refreshing your memory on this all-time season and choke, which one would you weigh more heavily, now 8 years removed? Was this the greatest season ever or the greatest choke ever? Let us know in the comments below. If you like this video or like videos like this, be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.